I had a secret love affair with younger brother before marriage, a true infidelity story. Hello everyone. I am Serena, born and raised in Maryland, a peaceful land with tree-lined streets and long rows of houses. There, I spent most of my childhood with my parents. My mother was a gentle woman, always smiling at me. From early morning, when she prepared breakfast, until nightfall in the small kitchen, she loved my father, a man of few words but very responsible, always working hard to take care of the family. The whole family lived in a small, simple house but full of love. Everything in my memory was perfect, or at least I thought so. But then, when I was only 15, my world suddenly collapsed. My mother passed away after a short and sudden illness, so quickly that I didn't even know what was happening. The feeling of emptiness grew as I saw my father become lonely in a house that was once filled with laughter. We continued to live, but we were no longer the family we had been. Every morning, I went to school. Every night, I came home. It was still the same kitchen, the same meals, but my mother was no longer there. Every meal had only 2 people, but the distance between me and my father seemed farther than the space of the house. When I was 18, my father remarried. It came as a shock, even though I knew deep down that he deserved to be happy again. His new wife, my stepmother, was a gentle and kind woman. She brought with her son, Lucas, who was a year younger than me. At first, it felt strange, as if my life had been turned upside down again. Things were no longer the peace I had known. Initially, I always felt awkward trying to fit in with this new younger brother, even though he had never done anything to make me feel uncomfortable. Lucas was quiet and, perhaps like me, was learning to adapt to the new situation. In the evenings, the whole family would gather in the living room. Dad and my stepmother sat below, chatting about work or future plans. Lucas and I often looked at each other with slight confusion that made me immediately lower my head. Family meals gradually became an occasion for us to get to know each other better, but in a strange way. Lucas often picked up food for me, a small gesture that made me feel a little unusual. He was always quiet, didn't talk much, but sometimes gave me longer glances than usual. I wondered if I was being too sensitive or if it was just a younger brother's feelings for his new older sister. But it was undeniable that, as time passed, there was an underlying tension between us that neither of us spoke about. The feelings that should have been just sisterly, since when had it become more difficult to distinguish? Underscore 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 underscore. There were moments during the day when I suddenly felt my heart beat faster when Lucas was near. I hated that feeling. I hated that I had begun to think of him as more than just a brother. One time, late at night, I heard light footsteps in the hallway. Lucas sneaked into my room. As usual, we would have a brief conversation before he returned to his room. But this time, he sat longer than usual, his eyes looking at me deeply as if he wanted to say something. I didn't know how to react. I just felt the atmosphere between us become strangely stifling. The silence dragged on. I felt confused, and before I could think further, I nodded slightly, inviting him to stay a little longer. We sat there in the darkness, in the dim light, 2 strangers who were close in a way that no one could explain. To be honest, I liked Lucas quite a bit. My brother was very handsome in a way that I couldn't help but notice. Sometimes I wondered if I should feel guilty about it, since Lucas was my brother in name after all. But those thoughts were often fleeting, ignored by more logical reasons, like the closeness of living in the same house or the harmony of 2 young people living in a closed space. We slept in separate but close-by rooms, both on the 2nd floor, while my father and stepmother slept on the 1st floor. This sometimes created awkward situations. Lucas and I were both at a crucial stage in our lives. I was a freshman in college, and he was a senior in high school, busy preparing for big exams. We were both trying to get used to the new rhythm of life. but the tension between us was undeniable. There were evenings after school when we sat on the sofa in the living room, the TV lights softly shining, but both of us were silent, not knowing what to say. The feelings between Lucas and me were ambiguous, not exactly the feelings of normal siblings. I realized that I liked him for real, beyond the limits of family love. The feeling confused me, but I couldn't deny that every time I saw Lucas, my heart beat faster. The time we accidentally met on the stairs, our eyes met. There was something in his eyes that I couldn't ignore. It was a peaceful evening like any other, but perhaps I knew it wouldn't end the same way. My parents had gone on a trip for about 5 days, leaving Lucas and me alone at home. At first, we simply thought it would be a time to relax away from the supervision of adults. That night, we sat together in the living room, turning on a romantic movie. It was a movie that neither of us were too interested in, just something to kill time. I prepared some dried squid, fruit, and a few cans of beer, a little relaxation after a busy week. The movie started off pretty easy. We were sitting around, chatting like we always did, small talk and light laughter filling the quiet of the house. But then the movie came to an unexpected scene, a couple passionately embracing each other. I don't know why, but we both fell silent. There was no more laughter or carefree conversation. The space between Lucas and me suddenly became stifling, no longer the comfort of two siblings sharing a simple moment. I could feel Lucas's eyes on me, no longer the usual gaze. A hot feeling began to spread through my body, but I said nothing, just sat there holding the beer can in my hand as a way to keep calm. But before I could understand what was happening, Lucas had embraced me. His movements were strong, unexpected, and irresistible. His kisses were urgent, as if all the emotions that had been suppressed for so long suddenly exploded. I couldn't resist. My heart was in turmoil, but my body reacted in a different way. We had crossed the limits of sisterly affection right at that moment, in the darkness and the quiet room. That night was no longer a normal night. It marked a major turning point, a change that I knew would never be the same again. That night, all boundaries were broken. I couldn't deny that I had let my emotions take over, let what shouldn't have happened, happen. That whole night, Lucas and I were together completely, crossing all boundaries. We didn't say much. Everything seemed to happen instinctively, according to what had been suppressed for so long. The closeness that we had tried to maintain was gone, replaced by emotions we couldn't control. I remember very clearly the feeling of the next morning as the gentle sunlight filtered through the curtains. I lay there next to Lucas, in the room that was supposed to be my own peaceful place to sleep. Everything around me was the same as every other day. The room was quiet, the light was warm, but inside me, something had completely changed. We didn't say much, just silently looked at each other for a moment. And perhaps we both understood that from this moment on, our lives would no longer be the same. The following days, my father and stepmother were still traveling far away, and we continued to make the most of that time. There was no longer any feeling of awkwardness, but instead a contradictory comfort. We lived as if we were two people in love, free from the prying eyes of others. Meals were no longer family meals but private moments, just me and Lucas. Every night, we sat together, watched movies, talked, and finally ended the night in the same bed. During those days, I let myself forget reality. I forgot that Lucas and I were only siblings in name. We lived during that time as if we were a young, free couple, without any worries. Everything happened so naturally, so easily, that I couldn't stop, couldn't escape the feeling of being swept away by our secret love and long nights together. Then the day came when my parents returned. When they entered the house, everything returned to normal. Lucas and I resumed our roles as siblings under one roof. We acted as if nothing had happened, as if every intimate moment had been a fleeting dream. My parents didn't notice. They kept smiling, chatting about their travels, while Lucas and I just sat there silently, sharing glances, knowing that our secret would have to be kept forever. In the months that followed, Lucas and I continued to see each other, maintaining our secret relationship. The sneaky moments, the long sleepless nights, became a habit. Whenever my parents went to bed early or left the house, Lucas would sneak into my room. We clung to each other as if there had never been any boundaries between us. During the day, we acted normal. Family meals continued as usual, and my parents didn't suspect a thing. Lucas and I would only exchange quick glances full of tension and longing as we struggled to maintain the facade. The guilt slowly ate away at me, but it wasn't strong enough to make me stop. Every night, every moment with Lucas became so familiar that I feared I would not be able to let it go. I knew I couldn't let this continue unchecked, so I started taking birth control pills quietly and carefully. I couldn't risk the consequences of our relationship being discovered. But instead of stopping, I chose to manage it, convincing myself that everything was under control and that no one would ever find out. A year later, Lucas graduated from high school and moved to another city to attend college. His departure marked a turning point in our relationship. The distance forced us to put everything on hold. Even though I felt heavy with nostalgia for the days we had spent together, there were no more sneaky nights, no more quiet moments stolen in secret. The separation, while painful, gave me the chance to reflect on what we had done. After graduating from college, I found a job at a digital company. The work was simple, but provided me with stability and a new focus in life. That's when I met him, the man who would change my life forever. He owned a successful hair salon in the city. From the moment we met, I was captivated by his confidence, charm, and kindness. He was everything I had never known I needed. We fell in love quickly. Unlike the tumultuous feelings I had experienced with Lucas, this relationship felt safe and grounded. It wasn't long before we got married and began building the family life I had always dreamed of. Together, we now have a child, and my days are filled with joy and a sense of purpose. Being with him made me feel whole again, as if I could finally leave my painful past behind. Yet, the memories of Lucas and our secret relationship lingered. They would surface in quiet moments, reminding me of the choices I had made and the lines I had crossed. I knew I had a new life and a family to protect, but a part of me carried the weight of my past. My husband is a wonderful man, kind, loving, and devoted. But every time I look into his eyes, I feel a pang of guilt, as though I'm hiding a part of myself from him. I've never told him about my past with Lucas. The thought of confessing terrifies me. What if he never looks at me the same way again? What if everything we've built together crumbles because of the truth? At the same time, living with this secret feels like a heavy burden I carry every day. It makes me feel undeserving of the love my husband gives me. I lie awake at night, torn between the desire to confess and the fear of losing everything. I wonder if I'll ever truly move on, or if the shadow of my past will always be with me. Now I'm at a crossroads. Should I tell my husband the truth, knowing it might destroy our marriage, or should I bury the past deep inside, hoping it will never come to light? I don't know what to do, and I'm desperate for answers. If you were in my position, what would you do? Would you risk everything for the sake of honesty, or would you keep the secret to protect the family you've built? Please share your advice in the comments below. I truly need your guidance.
Ever heard a story so gripping it keeps you up at night? Welcome to Mr. Reddit, where real tales are wilder than fiction. Hit follow now and let each story leave you on the edge of your seat. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and don't forget to comment.